Yo, what is going on, campers? We're back at it again. It's your boy Kevin here, and I'm with Chops. What's up, Chops?
What's going on, campers?
What's going on, campers? That will be less awkward in the future, right, Chops? I'll figure it out. Whatever. I don't know. The campers term. I feel like we're like a preschoolers, dude, or something like that.
Eh,
What?
It works with the camp. It works. It's Cryptid Camp. We got to stick with it, I think, even though it's corny.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for saying it's corny, but Emilio and them, they're probably like laughing their ass off. Hopefully, we'll see. Yeah. So today's video is all about, or today's episode is all about how to start learning Cryptid Camp, because we are a playing podcast called Playing Cryptid Camp, and at the end we'll have 5 tips for how to get better at the game that we Chops and I have kind of figured out over time. I wouldn't say we're good at the game yet, but we're trying to be the very best like no one ever was. So we are definitely trying to improve, and we have some tips to share to you. So if you want episode 1, which you should definitely check out all 70-ish minutes of episode 1. It's a good episode, if I do say so myself. Cryptid Camp is not easy. It's not an easy game. It is a very fun game. It's worth learning, but it's not an easy game. So we're talking about just learning it today and then getting better. And I think the first thing to mention, I'll ask for Chops if this is the first advice, the first most important advice with a Cryptid Camp, is this. Take your time learning it. Do not rush learning this game. Be patient learning it. I mean, would you disagree with me there, Chops?
Oh no, I definitely agree with you. I didn't want to rush into a game. I read while I watched your video, and then I read the rules probably 4 or 5 nights in a row before I even attempted playing a game against myself. So make sure, yeah, if you want to get into it, there's no rush. Just take your time, read that rule book 3 or 4 times if you have to, and then even then you'll find that you'll be getting things incorrect as well, like I did in my my video where I said that lanterns in the vertical position are switched on when in fact in the vertical position they're actually switched off. But yeah.
Okay, well that's a kind of a nitpicky thing, right? Like the logic there is kind of interesting. I know Gabe's logic is pretty sound most of the time, but that logic is interesting to me. But no, I mean you got that handled down. But what you said about reading the rulebook 3 to 4 times, yeah, I mean, yeah, man, like we'll talk about that very soon. But yeah, like you gotta take your time learning, and if you gotta reread the rulebook, that's no shame in that for sure. So, speaking of which, so where exactly do you start learning the game of Cryptid Camp? Well, I think the most obvious answer that Chops has basically said is read the rule book. Okay, now I'm going to say a pet peeve. Okay, I'm going to say a pet peeve of mine as a designer and a pet peeve of mine as a player. Okay, for any card game. People just do not read rule books. Okay, that is a pet peeve. People do not read the rule book. It is so annoying, in my opinion. Okay, this is a really annoyance of mine. People are like, man, I really want to learn this game. Magic, like Pokemon, it seems really interesting. And I really want to learn this game. Where do I start learning? The rulebook. It's the rulebook. You start learning by the rulebook. I wonder, I watched a video, didn't understand the rules too much. Read the rulebook. Like, the rulebook is right there. It's your best friend, guys. Best friends for the game. Everything to know about the game is in the rulebook, if it's made well. Okay, there are some bad rulebooks, guys. Okay, there's some bad ones. But Cryptid Camp has a pretty comprehensive rulebook with an advanced rules section. And it's all in the rulebook. For the most part, it's basically in the rulebook, as is. So, but, okay, I get it. Here's the thing. I talk about accessibility. I get it. Americans, we're kind of dumb. Okay, I'm going to say right now. As a half Canadian, I can say this too. Like, Americans are pretty dumb. Canadians, less dumb. I mean, I think Canadians are bilingual. Are you bilingual, Chops?
So I learned French in school, I can't carry a conversation, but it's like I can get along fairly easily in a in a French town. My family is actually from Quebec, so
Oh,
the
nice.
coast, um, where it's not primarily French. It's more mixed there. So a lot of the a lot of the signs and everything is multilingual anyway. But I can order food or get my way down the highway fairly easily with the French that I know.
Hey, better than most Americans in Spanish. I'll tell you that right now. Fun fact: my last name is actually Cote, so that tells me little French or not, little coast there,
There you go.
There we go. Uh, I can't speak any French. I can't speak any. I'm only English, unfortunately or fortunately, depending who you ask, as is. But I speak English pretty good, pretty well, and I read English pretty well. So rulebooks to me aren't a problem. So I'm speaking about this smart thing because I get it. Okay, I honestly do. Like, I can't have empathy, kind of, because I read. But I'm gonna be honest with you, right? Reading is hard. I'm gonna say it one more
Yeah.
time. Reading is hard. Okay, and literacy is hard. We have to understand that depending on where you're from, literacy is different from your backgrounds, like academic backgrounds. And the
Mhm.
literacy rate is going down in general, in America at least. Worldwide, I'm not too sure, but people, like kids, are reading less and less. Parents are not reading to their kids enough. In general, it's kind of sad, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But we had to mention that because there is no shame in rereading. There's no shame in not understanding words from the rule book. You shouldn't feel dumb for trying to learn this game. You shouldn't feel dumb trying to learn any game if you can't read the rulebook. If you've never read a rulebook before, this game is going to be daunting to learn. Okay, Chops is a TCG veteran here. He's been playing Magic and stuff for a while. He learned the game himself, right? He had the agency, the willingness to do it himself. And same for me, right? We are super nerds. I mean, right, Chops? We're super nerds here. We're not like your average nerd. We're like a super nerd.
Oh yeah, I like getting like in depth into something. Like when I get into something, it's like all I care about basically. Or if I like an IP, then I want like a lot of depth in it. There's a reason why I love watching 4 hour long 40 Warhammer 40K videos when I go to sleep.
There we go. That's super nerd right there. You see that? That's like a mega nerd right there, man. So Chops, Chops is a smart guy, obviously, but he's a nerd. I'm a nerd, and we like obsessing. Like, we are obsessive people, apparently. Maybe a little addictive people, also, with various stuff. So this her first part of this video is this podcast is to say it's to get rid of the biases, right? Like, or to talk about the biases a bit, because reading is hard, and ultimately, if you want to learn this game, you gotta read the rulebook, and you gotta start. You just gotta start. If you have to take it one page at a time, take it a page at a time. Take it a paragraph. If you want to get through one paragraph, take it a paragraph at a time. You know, like, oh, nice Pokemon Pocket, by the way. Got going on.
My bad.
It's okay. Pokemon Pocket's legit. You know, but you gotta go and start somewhere, right? That's really the key of the the rule book. So start somewhere and just take it slow. Okay, words are hard. I guarantee if you read rule books, man, like more and more, it gets easier. Or woman, or person, right? It gets easier to read rule books the more you do it, and you're gonna get faster rereading also once you know where stuff is. So
Yeah.
you gotta open that rulebook up. Now, I recommend downloading the rulebook as a PDF and just skim through it and just read parts that look interesting. Read the parts you don't know. And even though it's 31 pages long, I mean, like 5 of those pages is just like more or less lore, like explaining like, hey, these are the card types and it's the lore behind it. This is the
Yeah,
introduction of what the
cabins and
game is.
stuff.
Cabins and
Yeah.
stuff, like 10 pages, like advanced rules, glossary. Really, like the good stuff in the rulebook is like the layout and like how to like the setup and the phases. That's the good stuff, and it's like 10 pages long. You know, the advanced rules just give more context and more nerdy stuff how things actually work. So that's kind of there overall. So Chops, he's playing Pokemon Pocket, maybe still. Not calling you out, but it's all good. Where would you start in your opinion? Like, how about this? What would you focus on learning first in the rulebook? If you had to give like someone a script, a sister or a cousin, you're like, she wants to play Cryptid Camp, right? And she's like, okay, what should I read first in the rulebook to learn? What should I focus on memorizing?
Yeah.
Learning first, prioritizing, and memorizing. What would you do? Like if you had the rulebook pulled up, what would you do?
Well, I actually had to think about this while I was making my tutorial video
Mm.
because I had to think about how I was going to lay out my video, right? And the first thing I would say to them is basically learn the board itself, like learn the names of everything, um, and learn like about what each spot is for and all that kind of stuff. And then after that, you can kind of move on to actually looking at the cards themselves.
That's true. Yeah, learning the map is important. If you don't know what the zones are on this thing, and there's a decent amount of zones, honestly, you could have a kind of a hard time understanding where the other stuff is. Yeah. Um, Let me ask you this: what do you think playing the game, the section playing the game, page 17 right down the rulebook? You think that's like a good section to focus on first once you know the kind of layout of the game?
Yeah, I mean that's going to give you like your main objective, ways you can actually lose the game, and it's gonna give you a general like how to set up. Like after you know where all the zones are on the board, it's gonna tell you how to set the board up with your deck and your lantern and all that kind of stuff. And then it'll give you a little rundown of the different phases that you do throughout your day because uh, the turn is known as a day in Cryptid Camp. But other than that, I believe that's probably your best place to start if because the quick start guide I tried using the quick start guide, but to be honest with you, like you really do need to delve deeper into the game and just using the quick start guide, it can actually confuse you more than than just starting straight at 17, if I'm going to be completely honest.
I like that. I think the deep dive is more important. Just skip to the how to play section, honestly. Also, I recommend learning the card elements too. It does help to know. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is not like the best thing because there's like 19 different things that they list out in the card elements now that I'm looking at it, right? But focus on the big. So focus on the first half, right? Focus on the name, this level, attack and defense. Understand what those are, as is. So among like again, like I would skip. You can skip most of the cabin information, obsidian, quartz information. You don't need to read all that. How about this, Chops? What do you think about using the quick start as like a reference? Like, what are your thoughts about that? Like, once you know how to play the game.
Okay, well the quick start guide really it just kind of tells you how to set the game up in the first place, and it does show you the different phases of the game. Um, I think it is a decent reference, but I also think that they should include some kind of like I've set up cue cards to have alongside when we play, and they're they're very helpful. So you can either do one of two things. You can use the quick start guide as like an offside extra thing, and then deep dive further into the rule book if there's something there that isn't explained, or you can sort of make like cue cards, or hopefully when they release the starter decks, maybe they have an idea of putting cue cards in like rules cue cards or something like that. But yeah, I think it's a decent quick start guide. So as far as a reference, anyway.
Right. Yeah, just curious in those thoughts. Okay, what do you think about this take, right? Don't memorize cabin weaknesses and advantages, what basically, because it's already on the card. Yeah.
I agree with that. The table's there, which is nice because it's got a nice visual representation of it, you know. But you really don't even like. I don't think I've ever referenced this table during gameplay because it's not required. Which, in my opinion, that's good game design. I know you were talking about how it's very small where it actually is, where it actually shows you
Hmm.
the advantages, but having it just right on the card like that and not having to like actually remember some like a crazy cycle is really good.
Absolutely, yeah. Last memorization is good. Speaking of memorization, what should campers prioritize to memorize? If they had to memorize things in the rulebook, and get a grasp on first, what should they memorize? Do you think?
The biggest thing you need to memorize, in my opinion, is what the action phase, and specifically when you're using your cryptids to explore a camp. Uh, and you need to kind of really memorize all those different interactions because um, there's so many different ones, right? You can have a defense mode on attack on attack, et cetera, et cetera. And uh, you can also explore in defense mode, which is really unique to this game. There's not a lot of games where you can essentially attack in a defense mode with a cryptid or a creature. So I think memorizing both the explorer and then furthermore the battle sequence is probably the most important thing. Other than that, just memorizing and remembering the play sequence of the game. So the start of day sequence, the camp phase, the adventure phase, and the end of day, and remembering exactly what you can do in those phases and not like going to the next phase and forgetting to do something that you can no longer do.
Right, I do like that. The only thing I would add on there is evidence and how to gain evidence. This very specific sequence on how to gain evidence. So let's talk about a little bit about gaining evidence. We have to check for four different no responses to gain evidence.
Correct.
So we have to check: is there a site? Is the site in your camp? So basically, that question is asking, am I exploring a site? One of the numbered six sites that is in an enemy camp. You can't explore your own camp because that ruins the point of the game to do
Yep.
that. Two, did your cryptid confront a defense mode cryptid? Okay. The reason why defense mode is important in this game is defense mode is used to block, if you will, the exploration. You can use, chump blockers to prevent a site from being like, say, explored. So you can prevent evidence that way with defense mode. Kind of like how in Yu-Gi-Oh example here, a defense mode monster takes no damage. Like there's no like attack versus attack damage happening. So defense mode is good for that. Number three
Hmm.
is, was a trap activated? So we Chops did talk about this earlier in episode one, but we don't actually have trap cards yet in this game, which is
Correct.
so interesting to not have an entire card type, even though it's talked about in the rulebook like a lot, or at least several times. But the traps are good in this game because they kind of take away the whole, like, the thing with traps is that you could have a cryptid there in defense mode potentially, but it is still vulnerable. So there are a lot more cards to interact with, like messing around with cryptid, like positionings, making attack the defense to attack. Then there is like effects that work against traps. So I think traps are honestly really safe for defending. So that is an interesting aspect. And then four, is there still an entity in the site? What that really is saying for the evidence check, it's basically saying, did you basically defeat a cryptid? if it was there. So if you encountered a cryptid and you try to defeat it, is it still there at the end of the day? Because if it's still there, then you're not gonna get the evidence. So just think about that stuff. I do want to bring up something that Chops told me that I got wrong. Chops, what is that special rule with the trails? Like, what happens if I attack into a site and there's an unflipped trail?
That's actually part 5 of the adventure, of the exploration, and it's a trail check. It's another check that happens, and if the site has a face-down trail and isn't yours, that's also pretty key. You end up flipping it up. So if somehow an effect of an opponent's cryptid forces you to explore your own campsite, it won't actually flip your trail up. But whenever you explore a site, regardless of whether you've gotten evidence and regardless of whether you end up killing whatever was there, the trail will automatically flip up and engage its basically counter mechanic or its comeback mechanic, I should say.
Exactly. So yeah, the main thing that I messed up on, Chops pointed out, which thank you Chops for that again, is that it's not that if you get evidence the trail flips up, it's that you always flip up face down trails. And that kind of goes into a tip we'll give later on when we give 5 tips how to get better at Cryptid Camp, as is. So yeah, I think that's all really good. How about this, Chops? Do you think it's worth it to memorize the traits in this game? There's like, I don't know how many there is. It's like 15 traits in this game. Is it worth memorizing them?
Like I not right as of right now, no, because they have the most of the traits have the text in brackets of exactly what they do written on the card, with the exception of the environment stuff. But I don't believe those count as traits; those are effects.
That's true.
But yeah, as of right now, they explain all the traits right on the card, so I don't think there's really much of a point to memorizing them. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's important to bring up because a lot of people may gravitate to, oh god, I need to know flying and first strike what they do. But no, I mean, they're already on a card. The point of this discussion here, this part of the discussion, is to say what is important to memorize and what is not. Because we shouldn't memorize information that's already going to be on cards as reminder text. So that information is traits, and
Yep.
Also, you don't have to memorize the gem symbols because it says it in the top middle of the card. Even if it's small, it does say it in the top middle of the card. So you shouldn't have to memorize that kind of stuff. You shouldn't have to memorize the cabin advantage system. That takes away a lot of learning. And if you're learning, you shouldn't have to go through pages 7, 8, 9, 10, explaining the cabin info. Heck, even the intro, you shouldn't have to go over that. Focus on the how to play. Focus on the game setup. Focus on the card elements, the basic stuff, like knowing where attack defense is, knowing the name, and that kind of stuff. Like, that's the kind of info you should really be trying to focus on about the game. And that will help lower the learning curve of the game. And also, another card types, like no memories and no supplies, and those have specific spots for you overall. I'll give you a tip also for setting up. So in the game setup, you have to basically, it's kind of a free tip I'll give right now, but in the game setup, you have to basically, put your trails in any order you like for your camp, basically. Now, It can be daunting to be like, what order do I put them in? So there's two really easy ways you can set up your trails if you don't know what you're doing for basic strategy. One is and this is probably the most fun way to do it. You just don't care. Okay, so you just shuffle it up in your hand and put them in random order, and then you flip it up. This lowers a lot of cognitive load. You don't have to think too much about this method. It also makes the game more interesting doing it, and can also make your opponent more surprised if it's more random. Because if it's not random, you could kind of telegraph where your trails are, which, as Chop said, can't be a comeback mechanic. Another thing you could do is, and this is also probably the preferred way if you're a new player, is to put all the trails of the same type, and this is assuming you're playing the basic trails, but put all the trails of the same type as horizontal lines. So if I'm playing the Bigfoot Nessie deck, my green trails could either be all in front, preferably on the front, well, in 1, 2, 3, those squares, and all my water trails, the lapis trails, will be in 4, 5, 6. This has the advantage of being very simple to memorize, while also being playing the strategy, because in that deck in particular, the 1, 2, 3 slots will be played primarily by the Malachite cryptids, because they're going to be in front and trying to explore in front. Whereas the Lapis cryptids, the blue ones, they're going to have more range with Swimmer, so they are more likely to be in the back. So that's just the basic trail placement for setup, because if you're wondering on setup, I say it more as a setup tip rather than like a tip on how to get better, because that is, we're talking about the game right now and setting up, so I thought that was important to talk about. But what do you think about
Oh
that?
yeah.
Those basic like trail setup tips.
Yeah, because like when I was teaching myself, that's exactly what I did. I said, you know what? I don't have time. I want to learn how to play this game. I don't have time to think about where I should be placing these trails because I'll have to like go through my deck and look at each cryptid and be like, okay, well, where should I be placing this and all that. So I those two methods are great. You can either just shuffle them up and deal them out, and which is what I did, or like you were saying, you can just put all three in the same row to start with, and that way you can learn if you made the correct choice for your deck, and then maybe next time you can make a change, and that'll kind of teach you how those trails work just naturally. Deal out your cards, and you'll figure it out as you play. Both decks are actually kind of seem like they're designed where it can work with any trail in any position. I know you're mentioning that the Lapis Cryptids in the Bigfoot deck are better off in the back. However, they do have a Malachite Swimmer in that deck as well. So
That's true.
there is actually some stuff that you might want. Same with the Mothman deck. Like there's a couple of cryptids from the what is this called? The Fluorite that you might actually want in the front. So you might want to consider putting some Fluorite trails up front for that reason. But yeah, as a general rule, when you're just trying to learn this game, just first couple of games, especially if you're just playing with someone else who's learning, just shuffle them up, deal them out, or make your two trails the same, and you'll be good to go.
Good feedback. Speaking of rules, what would you say are the biggest rules from the rulebook that are hard for people to remember or kind of grasp, in your opinion?
The hardest rules to remember. For me, what do I usually have to check the trail evidence or the evidence check every once in a while. I know we talked about that earlier, but that's definitely something that I can remember, but sometimes I just have to double check. Remembering what actions or what things you can do in the camp phase versus what things you can do in the adventure phase. Those are probably the most important things, because if you forget to do something in the camp phase and you've already gone on to your adventure phase, then it can really affect your gameplay going on.
That's really true, actually. And yeah, you have to, if you want, this game cares a lot about attack and defense positioning, so you can only do that stuff in the camp phase. So you definitely got to keep that in mind as a whole. I think something also to think about too is that you can only really play the cryptids at the end of the day. It is so interesting. Like the camp phase is so you can pay to play it when it's on the campsite, when it's on the board, but you have to set it up earlier at the end of the day. And that's kind of the challenge in playing the game. Is you have to be proactive. Everything you play, you have to think one turn ahead. Like everything I put on the board now is maybe going to be played next turn. So just trying to wrap your head around that concept. End of day is where I put stuff out to play on the camp phase next turn. Very different, you know,
Yep.
and kind of hard to remember. Okay, I want to finish up the rulebook discussion here soon, but is there any other tips you would say for reading the rulebook at all?
I think we covered a lot of it. Like um, you can pretty much, skip the like if you really want to get into playing. I don't think just setting up the quick start is really going to help because you're just going to get stumped and end up having to look into the deeper rules anyway. Yeah, I think like I was saying, I think we should start on page 15. Actually, is you know just learn the area, then go to page 17, and go from there. And like I said, you don't really. I think is what page 21 on. So 21 to 23, you don't really have to read too much. And then 23 on is kind of the major what you really want to focus on in the rule book, in my opinion, because 23 on is the advanced rules. It talks about playing a cryptid and that interaction with like playing versus setting. Um, it tells you all about movement and exploration and all that stuff. And most importantly, at the end, well, not most importantly, but at the end, it tells you about the mulligan system in the game as well. But I would say, yeah, like 23 on would be the biggest focus of the rule book.
Absolutely. If the rulebook changes, the page numbers change in the future. Those sections were again playing the game, but start off with playing your cards, right? Knowing what the areas are. I would also add on again, memorize the card elements too, like where the name, like the attack defense, like where those spots are. Like, you should know that, know where the levels are, like the cost to play with vision. I'm gonna say it again too because I don't know if it's the most clear in the rulebook, but the way you play cards in this game is that you have to use at least one of any vision. So at least one. You can spend like for Lava Fena, which is a quartz cryptid in the rulebook. You can play her with only one quartz, but she has to have one quartz on her cost. Because one quartz to obsidian, one quartz to lapis, etc. So that's really important rule to understand, and how simple
Yep.
it is to get out these dual colors. My last tip I would give in the rulebook, and you probably use this all the time, but you're forgetting for it, is Control F. So you can just Control F, like search on a PDF anything you don't understand. Keyboard shortcuts are really good, so just Control F to on your keyboard for Windows. I'm sure there's a Mac one too you can do, but just use the search feature on your PDF app to go find terms you're missing, as that will make your time much easier to understand. But yeah, reading the rulebook is very important, and it's important to get some tips. It's important to get some tips since the rulebook is the core of how to learn the game. Because, hey, if you can learn to read the rulebook, you just taught yourself how to fish rather than, being given a fish. And you can go and teach other people how to play the game and just tell them, hey, read the rulebook, as is. Besides reading chops, there is other ways to learn. So we talked a little bit about videos. So talk a little bit about your video. You have a video on how to play, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah, it's my very first. Well, it wasn't my first YouTube video, or did I do the opening first? I think I might have done the opening first, but it's my very first attempt at a YouTube video. And I kind of the reason why I put it out there is because I just wanted other people to play so that I would have people to play with.
That's
That's
true.
the real reason I did it. But also, I was deep diving into the rules, so I figured, this is pretty complicated. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there that um, like with a lot of things, I prefer to learn through watching like a YouTube video, right? It's convenience. It's a summary, and you can get a lot from the video that you can then go, okay, well now I've heard of this, and when I see it in the rules now, I understand it a lot more because I've already seen it in action or I've already heard it talked about. So it makes a lot more sense to me now, right? So if you guys want to check it out, I'd appreciate it. It's not the most polished, but and there are a few mistakes in it, mind you. They aren't game-breaking mistakes; they're mostly just naming mistakes, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, check it out. That would be amazing.
For sure. And learning by watching is very useful, very important as well. We have to understand TCGs that it's a community, and the more you see people play the correct way, the more it'll be ingrained naturally in how you play. So yeah, we will be linking Chops' video and oh my god, what's his name? ATB Silence, something like that, on
I
Discord.
believe I believe his channel is TCG Necromancer,
ACG Necromancer, yeah. So he also
I believe.
had a tutorial as well. Watching more tutorials can also be good because people talk differently, have different learning styles. And Chops here is gonna go and do my next point, which is he's gonna record some of our gameplay and put it on YouTube, hopefully with some commentary.
Oh
So
yeah.
you can watch Chops and I battle it out. Chops may lose some, I may lose some. Stuff will happen. Drama will be had, and yeah, watch us play. Hopefully with some commentary, so you can see how we're doing things. So that will also be good. But of course, the two best ways to learn to play is to, I'll say it again, read the rule book, okay, and also to play some games. So go on TTS, beg Chops or anyone else who knows how to learn to play, and then if that's how you gotta learn, that's how you gotta learn, man. Like that's it. Because watching only goes so far. You have to engage with the material by reading it yourself or playing and having someone tutor you that way. Alright, Chops. So for the last part of the video, I got 5 simple tips of how to actually get better at playing Cryptid Camp, and we're gonna have a lot of videos, a lot of podcast episodes on getting better at the game because improving is a huge aspect of this podcast. But I got 5 today on beginner tips on how to improve at Cryptid Camp. So yeah, I'm gonna say a sentence and elaborate slightly, but then give me your thoughts if you agree or disagree or what you would think. Okay.
Yeah.
So first tip: play all your vision whenever you can. The key is to be efficient with your vision and play on curve. It doesn't mean this is the only play style you have to always play all your vision, mana, essence, whatever you want to call it, on curve every turn. But as a new player, it's probably your safest bet. What do you think?
So, what do you mean by play your vision on curve? Like use it on the turn that you get it, or?
Yeah, I'm saying like if you don't waste vision on a turn if you get it. The key is to always play cards whenever you can, if possible.
Fair enough. I think there's certain scenarios that you don't, but again, we haven't played too much yet, so I still have to get a feel for it. But um, you definitely want to flip your cryptids, knowing right now that there's really not much to do for your opponent to do to them if you're early on in the game. So what I'm trying to say is, early on in the game, you can put multiple cryptids down, face down, and not really have to worry about your opponent being able to attack immediately and remove your cryptids without you being able to pay for it. But once you get to that point where it's like, okay, now he can start flipping his cryptids and threatening my sites and my face down cryptids, then you kind of want to start making sure that you're playing on curve and you're playing you're flipping your cryptids up and you're not putting too many down at that point that they can punish you for that by knowing that you have none left and being like, okay, well, I'm just gonna play a haste cryptid in this spot, attack that site, and now you don't have the lanterns to pay for it. That's what I would say about that anyway.
That's fair. So making sure you have the vision available to play what you need to play, depending on your game plan, right? You don't want to overextend and put in too many cryptids as is. And yeah, especially early game, you don't really know what's going to happen. So just playing cryptids or saving up your vision to respond can be really good. The reason I do say, play all your vision when you can or use it is more basically there is a flip side, right? And that on one hand, tempo in the game is very important. Like we talk about, you and I, how important and good it is to get an early evidence lead and how that can carry a win if, with tempo. But the other aspect is like you don't get vision back. So if I have a turn, like, let's say I do save up my board, for response, right? I have like 3 face-down cryptids, and then I have 3 vision up left. And I can play any of them. I can play some of them. I can't play all of them. Maybe they have, I have like two costs and one cost, right? So if I had a 2/2, if I had to play 2 of the 2 of the 2 costs. Oh my god, I cannot talk. If I had to play 2 of those, then I can't play them because I only have 3 vision. So if that happens, what if they don't attack? If they don't attack me, I wasted my vision.
Yep.
So I don't get
Very
it back.
true.
So there's opportunity cost. If I try to respond only, I'm not utilizing my vision. So
it might actually be worth sacrificing cryptids. Or now that I think about it, it might actually be worth sacrificing cryptids in the early game, like in order to play on curve. I think you might actually be right about that. Like you said, if you put down 3 cryptids in the front row, for example, and you had 3 vision and the 2/2s and the 1, and it's like, you know what? I'll just play a 2 and a 1, and then maybe he will take that out, but at least these cryptids are now active and the lanterns haven't been wasted. So I kind of see what you're saying with that.
right. I also want us to think about like not viewing it as wasting, because you brought it up to me in a previous discussion in the past. Like if we play on curve, we have to play different because we have to make sure we're not wasting those hidden cryptids. Like if we, because if they reveal our cryptids and we don't have vision to pay for it, they just go in the discard, right? So the way you play on curve is different. I think you should not mess with hidden entities too much. You shouldn't mess with too many face down cryptids until you're very comfortable playing, like knowing that I'm playing safely. Like I think new players should try not to do what we're doing, which is like play 4 or 6 face down stuff. I think playing on curve is good, and it's a good practice. Try to follow this rule if you're a new player, okay? Try to follow I call it the +1 rule. Maybe it'll popularize in the community, I don't know. But the idea is never play a cryptid that is not more than +1 to current vision. So let's say I'm on turn 1. If I'm on turn 1, I can play 1 face down hidden entity. That's 2 cost. Why is that? It's because on the next turn when I can play the cryptid, it's gonna be 2 vision. So I can play that 2 vision cryptid because I'll have the lanterns at that point to actually play it.
Yep.
Now,
Provided that you play them in a safe position, though, because
that's
if
key.
you don't, yep.
Yeah, what Chop says is key. It has to be in a safe spot. So what is a safe spot in Cryptid Camp? Well, safe spots are going to be not the front row usually. So front row areas are like danger zones. It's like I'm going to get attacked, explored, whatever. Back row is going to be safe spots. accordingly. And that's where we're going to talk about our second tip, which is learn to reposition your cryptids for better positioning. So if you have multiple cryptids, do not forget you can use cryptids to rotate out your positioning. And that can be good to get better advantage. So a tip for the Malachite Lapis starter deck, the Bigfoot and Chessie starter deck, is that you could rotate your cryptids, swap their positioning to give your swimmers more range. So, an interesting play is you could actually keep a swimmer in the front row, so that way it can attack the front row or the back row of the enemy camps with the swimmer ability. But you can also swap it backwards and still keep an attack at the same time. Learning to reposition, like don't be afraid to use movement actions, and also don't be afraid to like say, hey, I want to put my cryptid in the back row, let a trail in front be attacked, and then move it in the front when it has the bonus. Now it's way stronger, and I can retaliate with an advantage. Don't be afraid of that aspect either. So
That's true.
What do you think about positioning?
Well, going back to actually what we were just talking about before, positioning is actually pretty key because now we can kind of talk about those two strategies together now, where if we go back to that same scenario where we play 3 cryptids in the front row and we have 3 lanterns available, say we had 3 face downs and you have 3 lanterns available. Well, now you can play the 2 cost and the 1 cost, and now you can move the other 2 cost hidden entity to your back row, provided that spot is safe from an opponent's swimmer or something like that.
Exactly.
So that is an example right there of how positioning is very key. Now, another thing I will say about positioning is that with positioning, you can essentially get free move actions out of adjacent cryptids. So if you have one cryptid that's adjacent to another, one of those cryptids can use their movement action to swap places with the other cryptid. The cryptid that moved to swap places has their action used, but the one that was moved doesn't. So that cryptid can still either explore or move themselves, which is very big for strategy.
That's true. I think your best swappers, I'm going to call it, like your best movement advantage engines are going to be hidden entities, particularly the ones that you don't want to reveal right away. It's kind of a waste, in my opinion. It can be a waste to not use a hidden entity to move, because at that point you just wasted an action you could have done but didn't do. Kind of like not paying for vision. So utilizing hidden entities accordingly to use them as like movers is pretty good. So there's a purpose to all the movement kind of stuff in this game. It's very tactical at the end of the day. Okay, simple tip number 3, my friend, and this is hitting a previous thing from last episode and a little bit nail in the head. Use your companion as soon as possible because it's easy to forget, and ideally against hard to kill cryptids in the mid game. What do you think?
I agree. Use it as soon as possible if you know that you're not going to get counterattacked and lose it right away like I did. But yeah, it definitely, you want to play it on curve, because there's a few games where I was 6 or 7 lanterns deep and I still haven't played my Mothman yet, or my Bigfoot, and I'm just sitting there, and then I peek over from the corner of my eye and I seen him sitting there and I'm going, oh yeah. So yeah, playing them on curve is really important, especially because they have pseudo haste or pseudo swift, I guess it would be in this game. Where having that cryptid come in and just be able to explore immediately is extremely powerful.
It's super powerful.
Yeah, and they might have other effects too. Like, for example, if you can't find your weather in your deck, the Bigfoot provides calm, and the Mothman provides nighttime for their respective camps when they're in. So if you've been missing that weather card and you can't activate your Guaco's or whatever his name is, his attack bonus, then there's Mothman sitting there the whole time.
He's just chilling. That's it. Absolutely. I think in general you should play on curve, but also you gotta if you play it, you gotta keep it alive because they'll get the extra evidence if they kill it. If they defeat it, I guess, in this game. Kid friendly, right? Not you can't say kill, whatever.
Yep.
So you gotta be wary of the evidence kind of aspect as well of that. But yeah, so yeah, this is don't forget about your companion. Definitely use it. Use it to come back if you're behind. And if you're ahead, you may not even have to play your companion so fast. You can kind of lay back, rely on your other non-companion cryptids, and kind of get by with that, you know?
Yeah. I would also say just a little note here that it might not be worth like it is worth playing it right away, but like without your trails up, it can be rough. So playing it on a trail that's already up is pretty key as well.
That is pretty true, actually. So yeah, playing it on a trail that's already exposed, so Bigfoot on Malachite, or Mothman and Obsidian Trail, that is pretty good. That extra bonus matters a lot, guys. Right, good tip, man. Tip number 4 that I have is to target single trails when possible. So in further context, it means kind of focus on exploring the same trail. And this is not always that possible. Let's say you have swimmers and flyers, particularly flyers, right? Flyers and diggers, they can attack diagonally, in theory, so or vertically, if you will. So you're able to basically use them to focus on the same square with your cryptids. So the idea behind this one is you want to minimize slipping over as many trails as you can for the most of the game, so you don't give too much bonuses to the opposing player. It's also more optimal since if you were to focus on one single trail, you could put more resources into targeting one area, making sure it's clear, and focus on just getting evidence from the area. You know, what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, for sure. The one thing that you have to note about that though, especially if you're new, is there's actually one other check in order for you to win the game. Not only do you need 10 evidence, but you do have to eventually at some point flip 3 of your opponent's trails. But that being said, for the majority of the game, yeah, you don't want to flip trails if possible because it just gives your opponent a comeback mechanic, and it's bad news bears. There are some cards in the game already that they have designed, like Sinkhole Sam, that actually allow you to explore um, a site without flipping the trail up, which is extremely powerful. So yeah, the trail's very important, very good comeback mechanic, and minimizing that for your opponent is definitely in your best interest.
Absolutely. This actually reminds me of chess a little bit. I was playing chess today with a friend of mine, a classmate. And in chess, a strategy like you see a lot of chess players do in their openings is they focus on a single point in the center, so a single square in the center. By applying a lot of pressure by putting these pieces to attack the same point, it makes it hard for the opponent to respond. Because if you have multiple attackers in the same point, you're able to maintain good pressure and control of the game. So kind of like Cryptid Camp 2. If you have a swimmer, if you have like a flyer and a vertical cryptid, attacking the same square, and you have like say a card in hand that could be used for removal on that square, like destroy the ego. That's a lot of pressure you're applying to that square. and you're able to keep control of it and not focus on everything else, the game. So focusing your attention on a square allows you to prioritize your resources and your thinking of the game. Makes it all easier,
Yeah.
Okay, so last tip I have for now is, focus on gaining evidence versus trying to kill a threatening cryptid. And we kind of hinted at this earlier, but I would either try to focus on gaining evidence on the single trail, like earlier, with the swimmers and flyers, depending on your build, or I would try to swarm the board. Like, say there's like a Bigfoot in the starter decks. Really hard to kill Bigfoot starter decks. Very powerful. Instead of trying to kill Bigfoot, you can just try to out evidence them. Just get more evidence than them. Use your swimmers, use your flyers, your diggers to get those back row sites, or use combos like with Destroy the Ego to get multiple evidence, or even get a Mothman win. You don't have to focus on combat all the time. Focus on just getting the evidence. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, at the end of the day, evidence is how you win the game. Um, and focusing on removing cryptids when a clear win is there is it's kind of a fool's game. But um, there's something primal about me that when I play this game, the reason why I don't even tell you in my tutorial video how you win this game until about, I want to say, 30 minutes in or something like that, is because it puts people off the game, because they hear like that it's similar to Lorcana, where they have to like collect quest points or something like that, right? Um, Unfortunately, that is the main part of the game, is collecting the evidence, and it's not bashing your opponent's cryptids in, which is what I would want it to be. But yeah, it definitely go for the evidence if you're going for the win. It's 100% always the play over trying to take out one of your opponent's cryptids. Um, and like, just even if you were to remove one of their Bigfoots or something like that, I mean, all you're doing is denying like one evidence a turn, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do get an evidence for killing it, but yeah, you're right. And again, when we played, you can tell my primal brain takes over, and I just go, me want to smash, and yeah, that's how it goes, though.
That is how it goes. Yeah, the way you play this game is that's the magic thing, right? Like, people magic. I want to kill stuff, control the board. But no, this game is about points, and tempo, and understanding how do I get more evidence than them, as is. All right. Any other tips you want to say to get better? I mean, those are my opinions of the basics. But I mean, what do you have, man?
So I have tips to get better. Well, first, I would say don't be scared of learning the game. Jump in and play it to begin with, just to even try it. See if you like what the gameplay is, and then you really have to. I I wish I could give like an actual tip to get better, but I would say the way to get better is to play the game, and then your brain will kind of make those patterns um, emerge through your experiences, right? All the games that we played, I now can look back and say, uh, what did I do wrong? And that's the best thing in these games is actually making mistakes, because if you make mistakes, then you end up learning from those mistakes. It's very much like life. So yeah, I would say my biggest tip is just play the game. Just play the game, um, and make mistakes. And if you guys can't figure out a ruling or something like that, just say, hey, you know what? We'll just call it this. We'll move on. We'll figure it out later, and have fun with it. That's the biggest thing. Have fun with it too.
Make mistakes and have fun. I love it, man. Well, it is one more extra question for you on that. what do you think was the biggest mistake for you when playing? That that you fixed or at least noticed to get better.
Well, I definitely know to play my companion a lot more now. I
Yep.
made that mistake too many times. Um, just forgetting small things, like attacking you, and forgetting that your trail's flipped versus not flipped, and forgetting about the bonus and stuff. So just kind of making mistakes like that. It's like, okay, I'm gonna train my brain now. Don't forget about the trail if it's flipped. Don't forget about the trail if it's flipped. And you just repetitive learning. That's basically how I go about it.
That's true. There's a saying in music. It's called repetition legitimizes. And if we say things repeatedly enough times, you will you will you will remember it, and it will make some more sense as is. I think also you not seeing the trails, that's less of a mistake on you, I think, but also like the graphic design, or we mentioned episode one, where if cards on top are on top of cards, it can be hard to realize that bonuses exist.
Yeah, true.
But all right, well, I hope you listener enjoyed the rulebook tips we had, the learning tips on how to read the rulebook, and of course how to improve. We're gonna have a lot more videos on getting better, more in-depth strategy, deck building, stuff like that in the future. So yeah, please check out the podcast and comment on YouTube or any other platform, whatever you're listening to this on. We listen to your feedback and want to improve accordingly. And yeah, guys, just hope you keep listening and enjoying. Any closing thoughts, chaps?
I'd say just pick it up, give it a try. Let us know what you think of your games, or hop on the disc and see if one of us is available to play, or if anyone else in the community wants to try.
Absolutely, because it all starts with a couple people, but hopefully we got a playing community soon for it. All right, it's Kevin here, and chaps. I'll see you next time.
Peace.